among the three enablers that we need, apart from high quality knowledge and education, is security. We must secure what we have, you know. We are having a paradigm shift in matters of our security. It's no longer about the number of people, the number of police officers we have. We are deploying a new technology. We want to digitize that whole space. We want to bring more cameras into the equation. The famous OB at the police station, you know, occurrence book, where you record crime and what have you. We want that digitized. We want citizens to report crime from where they are. We want to have more cameras to capture events as they happen. We are digitizing that whole space, and we've signed a contract with a consortia, Safaricom and others, to ensure that we have our policing is scaled up to a whole new level. What we have done here is that we have made it possible for you who is working in Saudi Arabia or any other place, or Italy for that matter. You can buy now without the risk of you being taken advantage of by friends or relatives or somebody. In Boma Yangu, you know, you can now buy a house. The Boma Yangu app is star 832 hash. Yeah, that is Boma Yangu. You can buy one of our housing units, the one we are building, right from here. You can buy right from here, and you will be sure that that unit will be available to you. I hope Ambassador and your group are, you know that, and you should be able to tell every Kenyan here. So now you have an opportunity to buy a property in Kenya, guaranteed by the government of Kenya. And you have a choice to buy a property anywhere in Kenya. We are a great sporting nation. We all know that. And that is the reason why I have decided to invest in sports infrastructure. We are developing not just stadia. We are developing sports infrastructure. In the stadia, you will find a lot more than the stadium. To provide more training, to provide more support to our sportsmen and women, and to develop our different facets, whether it is athletics or football or all the other ball games. And we are working at it. As you see us develop stadia, we're not just developing buildings. We are developing a whole sports ecosystem around the stadia. The business forum went longer than any one of us expected. It was very well attended. I was actually very impressed with the attendance, the interest shown by business people, entrepreneurs, investors from Italy, from Europe, in Kenya is immense, and it validates our position as a country, as an investment destination, and all the things that we have done to make sure that Kenya continues to attract investment and to grow and to get people in the private sector to support our development as a country. I know you read a lot of stories in social media. Most of the stories in social media is not correct. Most of it is fake. Most of it is misinformation. 3/4 of it is disinformation. And so it's good to get a correct picture of where we are as a country. We have consolidated the place of Kenya. I am very proud of the progress that we have made. You know, when I made commitments to the people of Kenya during the campaign, many people thought I had overpromised. They actually told me as much. And some of them were sympathizing with me. In fact, I remember one bishop telling me, it's okay, you know, it's understandable that sometimes you make commitments for the sake of getting votes, but you must not keep all of them. You can leave the difficult ones. And I remember telling him, I intend to keep every commitment and promise I made. I am very proud of what I have seen the Department for Diaspora Affairs doing, and it validates the request that was made by Kenyans that it is correct to have a department or a ministry that engages Kenyans in the diaspora. I think that request was not in vain. It is now clear to me that the request that was made by the people of Kenya was right, and it was the correct thing to do. We will continue with the leadership of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to engage citizens like yourselves in the diaspora, and I must congratulate all of you for the contribution you're making to wherever it is that you work, but much more importantly, the contribution you're making to our country. As the Prime Cabinet Secretary has said, we have, I've just appointed an ambassador to the Holy See because of the importance of Vatican. We have many students here who go to college here. We have many priests, and recognizing that the church plays, or played then and even now, a very important part in nation building. It was just important that we deepen the relationship between Kenya and Vatican. And I'm very happy that shortly, in a couple of weeks, maybe a month or so, we will have a new ambassador here who will join you other Kenyans in Italy. In our manifesto, we said we are going to have the National Infrastructure Fund, which is going to give us a different model of developing our country. And I'm very proud that finally we have a law that is the National Infrastructure Fund. I will tell you shortly how that works. Number two, we had to sort out agriculture. You know, for those of you who remember, in 2022, there were too many people in the streets with furias in their heads talking about unga and the unga prices that time. The unga prices were around 250 shillings to 2 kilogram bags, a 2 kilogram bag of unga. We've since worked on the agriculture sector, and we've done 4 things that are significant. Number one, we have changed the model from subsidizing consumption to supporting production. So instead of subsidizing unga, we subsidize fertilizer. Makes a whole difference. This year, we are on course to produce between 75 and 80 million bags, because we are putting our subsidies in the right place. I remember having a conversation with the World Bank when they came to ask me, Mr. President, why are you subsidizing fertilizer? It is not the right thing. I told them, you know, it makes the difference between us being able to produce more and keep our streets less noisy, or producing less. I made a commitment that we are going to make access to credit, especially for the very bottom of our pyramid. I mean, maybe you may not know, but we had close to 7 million Kenyans who had been blacklisted in credit rating agencies, CRBs. We took a decisive step, negotiated with the telcos and all the lenders in that space, and we exited all the 7 million Kenyans. We transitioned them into the hustler fund space, and we saved them from being blacklisted in the credit rating bureaus. The second item we did was to build our own resources for the future, because as we think about the economy, those of you who are students of economy will know that investment is a function and a product of savings. If you do not have savings, you run a very high risk of not having any investments to make. So what did we do? We had originally changed the legal framework, but there was court issues. We sorted out the court issues. We changed the contribution structure at NSSF. And today, I can proudly tell you that our savings as a percentage of GDP is growing. NSSF for 60 years had saved 312 billion Kenya shillings. But in 2 years, because we have changed the contribution structure from 2023, we have moved resources in NSSF from 312 billion Kenya shillings to 670 billion today. Next year, we will have 1 trillion shillings savings in our and I am very confident that in 5, 10, 15 years, we will be borrowing from our own resources rather than going to China and all the other places to borrow money. That is how countries are changed. You build your own reserves. What we have been doing all the years is to consume all the money we have, and then we go and borrow from those who know how to save. And we pay an arm and a leg for it. We decided that we are going to get rid of all the brokers and cartels and conmen in our farming ecosystem. There were people there mismanaging our fertilizer. We got rid of them. There were others, we gave them jobs to sell fertilizer. They went and sold stones. They were chased. We had people for those of you who come from the sugar belt, we had, chronic characters there who mismanaged the whole sugar industry. We got rid of them. For those of you who are in the coffee sector, we had characters who are in the coffee sector who had monopolized and created a big cartel. One person has a license to be a farmer. He also has a license to be a miller. He also has a license to be a broker. He also buys at the Nairobi Coffee Exchange. He has a license, one person. So we got rid of that, and we said you can only have one license. And the difference is there for all of us to see. And just because of the reforms we have carried out in the agricultural sector, our sugar production has gone up from 500,000 metric tons to 815 metric tons last year. And those COMESA safeguards we have been chasing for 20 years. I can tell you, in another 2-3 years, Kenya will be a net exporter of sugar. We've licensed 5 new sugar companies and mills, because and I'm happy that the fellow licensing is sitting right at the corner there. 5 new companies. And that whole sugar sector is changing. For those of you who know about coffee, coffee was selling at 50 shillings a kilo in 2022. Today, it is selling at 120, 140, 160. And part of the reason why I'm here is for us to agree on how we take that up. We can double the prices of coffee. We can move it from 160 to 300 per kilo if we do it right. That is already, ask any farmer what the price of coffee is today in Kenya per kilo. So we've changed that. Our milk people are in good space, our tea people are in good place. And we decided a third thing to do is to open new markets. We've just concluded and signed off with Lee here, the Chinese market for our tea, our coffee, our avocados, our macadamia, our agricultural products. Now we have a new market of close to 1 billion people, and already the first consignment left Nairobi, and we are looking at how to make that better. Today, you can see the difference, the sacrifices we made then. Today, our inflation, which was at 9%, is now at 4%. Our exchange rate, which had gone all the way up to 160, is now, for the last 2 years, is at 129. Interest rates that were, James Mwangi will tell you, they were going towards 20-something %. Now interest rates are cooling off around 14. And in fact, the 91 treasury bills that were at 16% are now at 8%. It's now 7.4. I was just being, the treasury man here is telling me it's actually 7.4, down from 16%. So our economy is now fairly stable. We can count on it, and we continue to do what we must do. I know because of the fuel crisis that has been occasioned by this war in the Middle East, there is a bit of disruption there, but we are trying to manage that disruption so that doesn't significantly affect our economy. But I can say with confidence that the sacrifices we made in 2022 are giving us results. Today, we have gained respect. The credit rating agencies that had put Kenya in a very difficult position, today each one of them are now saying a different story. In fact, they are giving us, they are elevating our credit ratings, Standard & Poor's, and all the other credit rating agencies. That was my first assignment, to make sure that we have a stable economy, because if we do not have a stable economy, it is difficult to do anything else. Waswahili wanasema ukiona vyaelea vimeundwa. There are no jobs that happen. They have to be created. And creating jobs has to be deliberate and intentional. You know, it's good to grow the economy. That's okay. You know, it's expected that when the economy grows, jobs become available. But that is not a straight line like that. You have to be deliberate about sectors of the economy that you stimulate because they have the potential to create more jobs than other sectors. And it is the reason why we have done 4 things. When I pushed for housing, many citizens, not citizens actually, leaders were asking me, who told you Kenyans need houses? Everybody has their home. Why are you obsessed with this housing thing? But you see, the irony is that in every manifesto of every political party, in the last 25 years, housing has always been a permanent feature. In the last election, Housing was in the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto. Housing was in the Azimio Manifesto, complete with the percentages of how Kenyans should contribute. Because everybody knows that that is the right thing to do. But when it came to the doing, that is where the problem is. So I remember this, just for your information, today in our housing ecosystem, we have 640,000 Kenyans working. How many? 640,000. Engineers, architects, masons, carpenters, electricians, name them. All manner of people working there. If you go, for those of you who have not been home lately, Kenya is slowly turning into a construction site. You go to every part of Kenya, from Kisumu to Mombasa. By the way, on Saturday, I was in a place called Banisa. Nyinyi mnajua mahali Banisa iko? Banisa is almost next to the border with Ethiopia in Mandera, up north. And I remember when I got into the car, I asked my driver there, okay, so how many kilometers is it to this place? He told me 1,090 kilometers from Nairobi. So, and in Banisa, I went to this place where we are doing a market and the police housing in the middle of nowhere. It's happening in Banisa. It is also happening in Homa Bay. It is happening in Kiambu. It is happening in every other. We have actually 210 sites of affordable housing, and we have 600 sites of markets going on. We had CBC that brought many complications to teachers and parents, and most parents were complaining that they were being made to work at night by their kids, or you have been told to make a car, so they were cutting boxes at night to make the car for tomorrow morning. And many parents did not like that. I wish there were parents like the ones who are sitting here. You know what it means to have a kid. You have to follow what they are doing in schools, in here. Yes. But back at home, the kids belong to the teacher and the school. So we had a challenge with the number of teachers. We had a challenge with the classrooms, and we had a challenge with the funding model for our university and TVET institutions. Those were the 4 significant challenges that we were faced with. I can confidently tell you we've sorted out all of them. Number 1, we've straightened the CBC. We now have competence-based education and training. We have worked with the stakeholders. We had more meetings. We engaged the stakeholders. We engaged teachers. And that problem is now being sorted. Number 2, we've hired the largest number of teachers ever hired by any administration. We have hired 100,000 teachers. We used to hire 5,000 teachers per year. 5,000 per year. In 3 years, we have hired 100,000. And we are scheduled to hire another maybe 16 or 20,000 teachers before the end of this year. Just to make sure that every child in school has what it takes to learn. We've also built, I want to thank our partners, working with the World Bank and other partners. We've built 23,000 new classrooms to accommodate more students, specifically in Nairobi. You know, many of you may not know, Nairobi, being the capital city of Kenya, has one of the most serious challenges of learning spaces in Kenya. Nairobi, the city, especially in the informal settlements. So we've tried to sort that out. In fact, I had to provide an extra 1 billion shillings beyond CDF to just take care of Nairobi learning infrastructure.
Not too long ago, you approved for the first time in Kenya's history to have a representative of Kenya at the Vatican. This has been long overdue, but you saw it fit, and somebody was named to this mission at the Holy See, and we want to thank you because that will be another Kenyan in the midst, working with the many Kenyans that are present here. Finally, let me thank my good friend, James Mwangi, for standing out to partner with us in the Diaspora department. We appreciate your gesture.
Today we signed an agreement that I was in this city just 4 weeks ago to negotiate. And every step along the way, His Excellency the Ambassador held our hand. Yeah, in another 2 weeks, we'll be back in this city to sign another agreement with IFAD. This demonstrates how our embassies are working with the private sector to make it happen. But Your Excellency, the Ambassador has emphasized how much you are investing in creating bilateral relationships. But deepening those relationships needs to be commercialized and monetized. And that's where equity comes to help Kenyans. The agreement we are signing, Your Excellency, today of $40 million is to allow Kenyans to exploit the bilateral relationship, particularly in the leather industry and coffee, and primarily the small and medium enterprises. So I want to extend this invitation to Kenyans that this relationship between Italy and Kenya can only be monetized and commercialized if we agree to take responsibility for the trade opportunities. We need to populate the entire ecosystem. For us in Equity, we felt the best thing we could do was to build a stable ecosystem and a stable value chain. So we are working together with Italian Development Bank to ensure funds flow from the manufacturers and to the producers in our markets. But as we need to be in between to be able to ensure that flow. Lastly, Your Excellency, is to say we are extending this also to make the agreement that Kenya has signed with the European Union count. It will only count if our goods and services comes to Europe. Otherwise, it will remain just an agreement. I want once again to invite you to join our country in operationalizing the agreements it's signing, particularly in the space of trade.